A vaccine passport hasn't been announced yet in Ontario, but sources tell CityNews we could be hearing of a plan as early as tomorrow. Advocates for racialized communities and those experiencing homelessness predict there will be problems if and when Premier Ford mandates a passport system.
I immediately think of people just trying to go into a Tim Hortons, maybe to get a coffee, or trying to get in somewhere out of the rain, and they will be denied because maybe they don't have the right ID to go with the vaccine passport.
Tommy Taylor is a frontline shelter worker in Toronto. He says although a vaccine certificate would be a step in the right direction to keep all Ontarians safe, he hopes the province considers racialized communities and those experiencing homelessness before they unveil one, adding certain groups have been facing challenges throughout the pandemic. A poorly thought out certificate would further complicate things.
We're talking about folks who haven't had easy access to the vaccine because they might not be vaccinated, or people that don't have ready access to ID.
Today, leaders across healthcare, education, and municipal sectors met to discuss the necessity for a province-wide vaccine certificate. Ontario NDP leader Andrea Horwath tweeted this today, which reads in part, "Ontario has access to experts and to BC and Quebec as examples. We can keep people safe and support economic recovery without leaving anyone behind." Dr. Amit Arya says before we push the certificate, efforts still need to be made to get more individuals vaccinated.
I want to point out that everyone who is at this point unvaccinated is not an anti-vaxxer. So there are many people who are unfortunately still facing barriers to obtaining the vaccine, people who just need that conversation, people who just have a few questions and are maybe on the fence.
Dr. Arya says when looking at the certificate through a health equity lens, he predicts problems being added to existing issues for certain groups.
The impact of the pandemic has been very hard on racialized Ontarians. These are communities that historically have mistrust of people in authority, police, where we have to ask ourselves, who is going to be enforcing the vaccine certificate? So that is something that could lead to further mistrust in racialized communities.
Taylor echoes Arya's concerns.
People who can't get online, are we going to have a phone system for people to be able to get this vaccine passport? Is this going to be something where if someone has their ID stolen in a shelter, they can easily get this so that they're not excluded from society?
The frontline shelter worker we spoke with says he hopes if the provincial government announces a vaccine passport system, they speak with homeless advocates beforehand to discuss how this is going to work for people who don't have access to proper ID.